Hey guys, welcome to Bowhunting Soul again. This video is part 2. It's about 10 seconds after the first one I just finished, so if you watch that one, you know I'm getting swarmed by mosquitoes. It is absolutely terrible out here. I mean, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm heading back inside the car with the air conditioning and then going home. So anyway, the second part of this is I wanted to, as far as recurves and longbows and stuff, I actually wanted to change the title of this to a longer bow and a shorter bow. But in this one, I want to talk about a longer draw versus a shorter draw. Now, these arrows, not those arrows, these arrows are 28 inch, or 28 and 3/4 inch. Okay, meaning if I come to the front of this insert here, I'm gonna be at just under 29 inches. Now, draw length. Draw length is a very tricky one, especially when it comes to traditional bows. When I first started doing this, I didn't know what my draw length was. But, you know, sitting perfectly, you know, standing perfectly upright, that one's got a clicker on it at 27 1/4, by the way, I'm going to get to that. I was actually shooting damn near 30 inches. And I can shoot 30 inches, not a problem. I can shoot 30 inches when I'm sitting here perfectly, you know, level. And here we go. Here's the front of that riser, right? Or the front of the arrow. So this is like 29. I can shoot this all day long. This is a 29 inch draw. That's a long power stroke. I could actually shoot 30 inch on that on the Kodiak Magnum. The more you pull, the more poundage it is, the more oomph behind the arrow. Fantastic. Here's the problem. When I put a clicker on my bow, I found it harder and harder to come back, you know, consistently all the way to this all the time. I can do that sitting here like this, but after I've been shooting for a while, number one, and more importantly, number two, in various, you know, contorted positions, you know, whether I'm shooting downward from a tree stand, whether I'm crouching, kneeling, kind of leaning around something, it doesn't work as well. So I've actually ended up shortening my draw length. Now, whether that's correct or not, I don't know. It's just the way I do it, and it's what's worked for me. Because again, I'm like I try to tune my stuff for a worst case scenario. So if I tune my bows to be my arrows to shoot, you know, at, let's say this is 45 pounds at 27 inch, right? If I were to shoot 30 inches, this thing, excuse me, would be about 49 pounds or 50 pounds. If I were to try and tune this thing to 50 pounds, at 30 inch draw, this thing would need a lot stiffer arrow. It would need less weight up front, or, you know, shorter arrow, or the next stiffest spine. But then in the field, if I didn't quite come to full draw and I only got to say like 27 and a half, for example, then my arrow is going to fly like crap. And I don't want to do that. I want this thing to be absolutely bulletproof, worst case scenario, you know, get you through any kind of situation without being too short a draw length. So that's what I've done. I've actually shortened my draw length. So what I've got now, again, this is a 28 3/4 inch arrow. If you look at my clicker is set to go off on this one. I believe it's 27 1/4. Where's the arrow tip? There you go. Right there, okay? So there's quite a bit more sticking out in front of this one. The reason for that, again, is if I'm in a situation that I'm shooting downward, I'm not always coming to, I can't maybe necessarily always come to full draw, or if I'm leaned around something, you know, and if I'm drawn back enough, and that's kind of a subjective thing, for you to figure out. If I'm drawn back enough and I'm come back to, you know, enough of a, you know, full draw. Can you hear the clicker there? Sometimes it feels good right here before the clicker, and I'll let it go. I want my arrow to be perfectly tuned, you know, at, or maybe just slightly weak, but I mean slightly weak, at my clicker when I'm expanding. But I also want it to be I guess robust enough as far as what it can do, as far as range that it can shoot. I also want it to be able to shoot, if I don't, you know, if I don't come to 27 1/4 and I come to 27, then it's still going to fly right, and it's not going to be too stiff and fly really bad. It's still going to fly really, really well enough that if I don't come exactly to full draw, that I'm not having like a wobbly arrow. Okay, that's really, really important to me. So again, a lot of people might say, well, that's really not the right way to do it. Your draw length is a draw length. I don't know. I think you have to find what works for you in the range realistically that you're going to be actually shooting this thing. And for me, I'm all about realistic. Okay, like I said, I can sit here and shoot 30-inch all day long, and I used to for a while on this, but then, you know, when I got a clicker on there, I noticed I wasn't hitting my clicker all the time. I was kind of coming, you know, I was coming to, you know, what I would consider full draw, right? Anchor here. But what I wasn't doing, I wasn't after full draw, it was harder for me to expand and get good back tension and then pull through the shot properly like you're supposed to. So I would come to here, but it would take, well, that's example, it would be shorter. Let's say here, right? But then like I feel like I'd have to pull like this much to actually expand, and I wasn't actually expanding and hitting my clicker. So I thought, well, what is the point of having a clicker if I'm not going to do it consistently? So I shortened up where the clicker goes off. I shortened it up a little bit. So I went from basically like 30, 29. I mean, I've gone iterations 28, and now actually I'm like 27 1/4 on this one and on the Kodiak. And on this one, I actually took the clicker off of this one temporarily to put it on a Grizzly I was working on. But the clicker is going to go back on this one, and I was shooting 27 inch, 45 pounds. Okay. So between 27 and 27 1/4, depending on the bow, depending on the grip, okay, because again, I've kind of filled in the grip on this one a little bit. It changes things, you know, just slightly with the feel, but that's the reason for it. That's the reason for it. So if you guys are struggling with, you know, what your draw length should be or what someone tells you it should be, put a clicker on it. And I know clickers are frustrating to a lot of people, and I've ripped the clicker off my bows when I was first doing it. I think like 2 or 3 times before, in anger, you know, before I decided, okay, I'm actually going to put this and I'm going to commit to the clicker and hit my, you know, my click every time. But once you start doing that and you know, getting your mind used to shooting with a clicker, then you can go back and say, okay, am I hitting my clicker every time? And if you're not, try shortening up the draw length a little bit. Maybe you're getting, you know, maybe you're setting your clicker too far. So maybe your natural draw length is say 28, but you know, you're setting your clicker at 28, but then going from 28 to 28 1/4, let's say, that extra last little bit may just seem like it takes forever and then maybe you feel like you're creeping forward. Trust me, that happens. So if your draw length is 28, let's say, normally what you think would be, try setting your clicker at 27 3/4 and then see what happens, so that you come to full draw, and then by the time, I'm sorry, try setting your clicker at 28, but your full draw, let's say, is the 27 1/4, whatever, you know what I mean. Make it a little bit shorter, so that by the time your clicker goes off at 27 1/4, sorry, by the time you're at 27 3/4, I keep messing up the whatever, 1/4 inch shorter. By the time you expand that extra 1/4 inch, then your clicker goes off, but make sure you can hit it every single time. If you can't hit it every single time, see that if it's you, if you're really giving it an effort to, you know, have good back tension and stuff, but otherwise shorten up that clicker. Now don't do it so short that, you know, you're like coming here and then just flinging arrows like that, okay? Don't do that. However, do it enough that it feels good for you and consistent enough for you that you're going to do it every single time, and you're going to do it in this position, you're going to do it in this position, you're going to do it, you know, all kinds of ways. So anyway, just a couple things I wanted to, you know, to kind of go over. If someone tells you that, you know, you can't shoot a short bow in some conditions, well, say, okay, well, where are you shooting your bow versus where am I shooting my bow? Go up and actually, you know, shoot downward. Go stand on a ladder, well, not on a ladder, but go stand on a bench, or go up in your tree stand or something like that, and start shooting down. And you'll see that you're going to have some, you know, whether you can actually get the full draw, or in a previous video, like I talked about, whether the string angle is actually going to hit you in any place, or if it's going to hit, you know, if you shoot with a backpack or something like that. You know, the longer bow may not necessarily be for you, and the shorter bow may be too hard for you to shoot, so you might have to find something in between. So that's the beauty of traditional archery. You just got to keep trying and trying and trying. So hope that wasn't too confusing and too rambling. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to check out any of these bows, I always have links below for you know, the different bows and arrows and all that stuff. They're Amazon links. If you go buy anything through there, or even anything on Amazon anyway, I really appreciate if you click through my links, because then I get a few pennies back. And yeah, that's it. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll check you guys next time.